Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Cheryl Tan.
And I'm Zach Miller. Welcome to Hampton Roads Business Weekly. The military plays such an important role in Hampton Roads, but what happens when our men and women leave the service?
I met with Brian Stevens from the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce about the tools and resources available to veterans making the transition into the business world. Take a look. Brian, thank you for your service, your military service. And 7 years ago, you were in the same place that a lot of transitioning military folks are trying to figure out what to do after the military. What path did you take?
Yeah, I sure was. 7 years ago, I was coming to an end of what was a great career, the honor of serving our country in uniform, and I didn't know what to do. And so I did a lot of research, and I was able to transition into a job that led to another job that led to this job. So I don't think it's unusual for men and women in uniform that are trying to transition into the civilian world to be challenged by that, to have anxiety about that. I think it's natural, and to understand that you just need to put your head down and do your research and go to work just like you did in the military.
You must have done homework in that point where you're thinking, where am I going to go next? So what kinds of steps did you take?
Well, first of all, you have to prepare yourself both mentally and emotionally for it. But then the basic things, just getting the resume done, getting your LinkedIn profile updated, reaching out to everybody that you know. A lot of job searching is about networking and contacts and knowing the right people. I found that most people in positions of influence are willing to help you. They're especially willing to help a veteran. So you need to be aggressive, and you need to reach out, and you need to start networking.
What would you tell someone now, once they sort of get through the, I know I've got to leave, or I know I've got to have a plan and get my resume in place? Are there certain organizations, are there certain steps that you think that they should take that are critical, that helped you?
Yeah. Again, well, first of all the military installations around here have transition assistance programs, and that's their first point. The transition assistance programs can point them to the business community and some government agencies here in Hampton Roads that can help them as well. Find help. Don't be shy about it. Don't worry about where you're going to go. Just do your research, find the right contacts, and be aggressive about finding your second career.
So we're talking about career on one end, but how about military to entrepreneur?
Sure.
How common is that, and what avenues are available for those folks who want to start a business?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of avenues, and I think there's a lot of interest in entrepreneurship with some of our young soldier, sailor, airmen, and Marines who don't necessarily want to work for a corporation or go to work for some organization. They want to be their own boss. If that is you, there's plenty of venues out there. I would encourage you to talk to the small business development centers, talk to some of these incubators, go to the colleges and universities that have entrepreneur programs now. Get involved, do your research, find out exactly where the funding is and where you can get the coaching and the mentoring to do exactly what you want to do as far as starting up that business.
It seems like there are more opportunities if you're willing to put the work in the beginning.
I think there are. I think that we're coming to the realization that small businesses and entrepreneurs are the backbone of our economy. And we as a business community as well as the education community are understanding that now and trying to put together programs to help facilitate entrepreneurs and make sure that they're successful and they create jobs which contribute to our economy.
Fantastic. Anything else that you'd like to add related to transitioning from making that change from a military lifestyle into the civilian world?
The one final comment I would make is I hope that all of our men and women in uniform know a couple of things. One, we certainly value their service to our nation. We honor and respect them for their service, and we're here to help them. The second thing is there is life after the military, and it could be a very rewarding life, and they should look forward to it.
Coming up on Hampton Roads Business Weekly, go swimming with a shark. Our exclusive interview with Shark Tank's Daymond John is next. Then later, see what happens when we pair up a local entrepreneur with a local banker. It's coming up on Hampton Roads Business Weekly.
Entrepreneur, author, speaker, shark. Daymond John has worn many hats throughout his career, but nowadays he's probably best known as one of the investors on ABC's Shark Tank.
Recently, he spoke to a packed crowd at Regent University, and I was able to speak with him one-on-one. We talked about how he started his company FUBU and the role Hampton Roads played in getting it off the ground. All right, Daymond, I love your story. I love that you saw a problem when you started FUBU. Going down the streets of Queens, and saw the hats were overpriced, and you decided that you could make them and make more money that day. How did you know that you could actually execute and do that at that time?
Well, I actually didn't know if I could do that. I knew that, my mother taught me how to sew those hats, and I knew that I could then sell them to make a couple of dollars. But it wasn't until probably later on, maybe about 2-3 years after that, that I realized that there was something there. And I'm not certain the year, but believe it or not, it was here, Virginia Beach. I came down here for, at that time, Teddy Riley used to throw a big event. And I was down here, and the music artist, The Brat, had a song out. And I went up to her, and it was on stage. I happened to have some friends there, and I asked her, could she wear the product? And she said, oh, I've been looking for this forever, I'll wear it. Because I'd already placed it in a couple of videos, but that was the first time that I'd ever been able to actually interact with an artist, and then after that, it just kept happening.
So you talk about one of the growth strategies for FUBU was you're able to get your clothing line in music videos and have other people do that. How are you able to get that in front of them, and what did you do specifically to convince them to take on a nobody, basically?
Well, at that time, rap was very young and pure, and you can easily get around to the artists and their surrounding friends. But the reason why I had said for making the hats to 2-3 years later was I focused on the local celebrities, meaning the person that everybody looked up to in the community. That person could have been a high school football player. That person could have been somebody that owned a really great, cool clothing store, and they were selling everybody else's clothes. So that what we would call today influencers, the people that today, may not have a public stage like ABC or E Networks, but 5 million people follow them on Instagram because they just may be a mommy blogger, a mompreneur, a great chef, a foodie who talks about things, a blogger. So we always started with local entrepreneurs and or influential people. And then the artists, when they come back to their neighborhoods, go, what's all that stuff you're wearing? Yeah. Oh, you didn't know, you were so busy on tour, Mr. Big Shot. You should probably want to try to wear something like that. And that's how it worked.
I've heard you in an interview before say that counterfeit clothing really helped you do that. When did you first see that counterfeit clothing was something, or that you could find that people weren't wearing genuine FUBU stuff, and how did that influence the growth?
Well, counterfeit clothing, you have to look at it a couple of different ways. There are people that are going to make your product out there, and they're not going to pay you for it. And then there are people out there who, whether they couldn't afford your product, couldn't find it, they would have never been a customer anyway, that if the counterfeit, they buy that, then what happens is it's a form of a billboard, it's advertising, but it also is not taking a customer out of your market that you were going to obtain anyway. And the reality of it is, it's kind of, if you can't beat them, join them, because if you look at the counterfeit market, they do so much. You can go spend all your money in your company, all your profits trying to fight it, and you wouldn't put a dent in it. So find a way to use it to your advantage.
When someone, a lot of people hear no and they quit. How have you taken no and turned it into a yes in business?
Well, first of all, a no is always an absolute maybe to me. And when people all agree and you get the lowest common denominator, and often no is because the person just can't foresee, or they don't have the vision. And I've often said, if they were all going to say yes, then there wouldn't be a reason for you to exist, because everybody would have thought of the things that you're going to go and accomplish. So I really just I just don't take no as is an answer. It just doesn't exist to me.
And I love that, an absolute maybe. I love that, trying to figure out to change and tweak a couple words or something like that.
It's definitely another way to approach it, but you know what? The thing is that the answer is always going to be no unless you ask.
Sure.
Right? That's just what it is.
Stick around, I have more with Daymond John, including his advice for new entrepreneurs.
That's next on Hampton Roads Business Weekly.
We're back with more Hampton Roads Business Weekly, and we're going to jump right into the conclusion of my exclusive interview with Daymond John. Take a look. So you're here at Regent University. What are you expecting today, and why are you here?
Well, you know, I'm here at Regent, and I'm here to thank everybody who has supported the Daymond John Center for Entrepreneurship, and I'm here to also talk to the existing students and the new students about our courses and meet all the great professors and give a speech that hopefully will inspire people to want to further their education in what I'm doing. And I want to thank Regent for having this agenda to take the mindset of entrepreneurship and make it something for the masses.
Entrepreneurship is a huge thing in America right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people love it. Your show is one of the reasons why. Why is entrepreneurship so important, though, and how is it going to influence the way we do business for the next 10, 15 years?
Well, you know, it just happens to be that it's brought to everything that happens today because of social media is kind of brought to the light. I don't believe that entrepreneurship is something that is just hot today. I mean, that's what this country is founded off of, to be honest. And I believe that it was the Kaufman Foundation that pointed out, I think, between the years of 1983 to something like 1999 or even 2001, that 95% of the employment and of this country was done by companies 5 years and younger. So that's in the 83 all the way up to that point. So that doesn't mean that entrepreneurship is old. It's just another phrase to it. You know, I think it's very important. I think because it's the small businesses, the startups that feed America. I think it creates ingenuity, and it's why we are who we are as a country. We have that, what they call that black box in this country, where we are not questioned for challenging change. And I just think entrepreneurs are on the forefront of challenging change.
You talked about social media a lot. Do you post your own social media, or do you have a team that does it for you?
I post all my social media. There is a team that does other posting for me, but it's approved by me, and we go over it so that, you know, at certain times when I'm busy, but it's an amazing holiday or a day that we need to acknowledge something, we've already created some kind of graphic or something like that that goes up. But they go and they post it, but I have to approve it. But don't get me wrong, there are a lot of young, brilliant guys and girls that work on my team that we work back and forth, and I learn from them on how to post it.
For someone that might be on the fence about starting a business,
yeah,
what piece of advice would you give them?
Don't quit your day job. Go into the business as somewhat of a hobby at first and set yourself some goals. If you're going to put 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours into it a week, and then turn around and say, when am I going to make this decision? 6 months into it, a year, because that time will start compounding, and they'll start to see if they really want to be part of this new venture or this new aspect, or do they want to just keep their day job. Just stick your toe into it. Don't go and leverage everything and mortgage the home and, and quit your day job, and then you don't even know if you're passionate over this, if it's going to be successful or anything else. You have to do your homework, and you have to put in the time.
We live in an area here, the Norfolk, Virginia Beach region, which is 3 large industries: military, tourism, and ports. Those are very kind of old industries. What would you say to them, those industries, to try and innovate and spur innovation and entrepreneurship for the growth of this region?
Well, listen, I always say that as much as there's the fundamentals, if you operate the fundamentals of it and you utilize this new world of technology and this new world of delivering a message to somebody, you can actually transform that business into being something new. So whether you had said to us, oh, well, we just do, we're a service-based industry and we have limousines, and then somebody comes out with Uber in the town, there's always going to be a new form of delivery. So you just have to find out how to master what you guys and girls have already mastered out here, because there's an infinite amount of knowledge in running those industries, and how do you put that together with a new form of delivery, a new technology, and then you get to master that.
Great. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Welcome back to Hampton Roads Business Weekly. Today we're starting a new segment called Questions and Answers, where we pair up an entrepreneur and an expert in business. I want to introduce you to Gordon Rivers. He's the president of Auto Signs, and Joe Witt. He is the senior executive vice president at Old Point National Bank, as well as a CPA. So thank you both for being here today. We want to start out with Gordon, who's been in business for less than a year as far as your product being sold on the market, April 2015. This is your product. It is a motion-activated audio-visual warning sign. I would love to have you show us how it works.
Okay.
So is there a way to let us understand
Yeah.
what it does for companies and what it can do
Okay.
for businesses who invest in them?
Well, quite simply, and unfortunately, with the sound reproduction when it comes back over here is not like you would hear it when you hear it, but in real life, basically, you would
High voltage.
you just turn the sign on. The LED lights flash in here. It's activate the voice and the LED lights are
Danger.
activated by the motion
Danger.
sensor, and the motion sensor operates within about 12 to 15 feet, normal walking pace.
So we want to talk about the product and some of the struggles that you're seeing in your business right now.
Okay. We formed the business about 18 months ago and just started, as you indicated, selling products a few months ago this year. The biggest issue is we get a lot of interest. The biggest issue is getting the word out to people. It's a product that once people see it and touch it and feel it, they get really excited about. The other big problem is trying to raise money for something without a lot of assets on hand to be able to borrow. So the two key things that I think about when I wake up first thing in the morning, I'm having breakfast, is okay, where am I going to get some sales? And when I get the sales, where am I going to get the money to make the product to do that?
Joe, I'm going to throw it over to you. These are some heartfelt worries he has as a business owner. What is your response?
Well, a couple things I heard that I really like so far. First of all, you started the business 18 months ago, but you didn't really start selling the product, I think you said, until about April, which means you put a lot of planning into the process. And planning is critically important to success. Too many people jump into their business without really planning for success. The other thing I heard too was that and we had talked earlier, and you had mentioned that you are pouring a lot of your money back into the business. You're not trying to live off the business at the current time. That is critically important to success too, because especially in the early startup stage, every bit of cash that you can pour back into the business is very, very important. But one of the things I also heard, which is very common with entrepreneurs, is where do I find my capital? And finding capital for an entrepreneur is not easy. But when you have a great idea, and Gordon and I just met this moment, but when you have a great idea like this, finding investors should not be overly difficult, but you just have to find the right ones who are willing to be very patient and share your business plan and share the success that you have.
Yeah.
So Gordon, have you tried to find investors and have been unsuccessful? Have you gone to the bank?
We've talked to several banks, and I think there's a lot of people, at a personal, at a branch level, loan officer level, people are excited about the product, think it's a good idea, but somehow it gets in the back room, and they're coming back and saying, well, we need to have more, we need to have some equity in something. We need to have something more than we have now to get the kind of money. We're not looking for massive amounts of money, but to get the kind of money we're looking for, all we really need is right now, having got to where we've got, is a line of credit. That's the bank side. So I've been, I was a bit disappointed because initially you have, a great reaction because the product's cool, but I'm a bit disappointed that we didn't get anywhere with the bank in terms of what we really wanted. The other side was we've talked to a lot of private investors, and investor organisations are being offered quite small amounts of money for quite large parts of the future of the business. And that doesn't, that's why I opted to sell the house and also to start using my IRA to live on, because I'm fine. I understand investors want something to have something back, but there's for the amount of money we're talking about, it was unreasonable. We felt were unreasonable demands.
Right. So what is the response to that? I know, Gordon, you've been pounding the pavement, you've been talking to a bunch of people and not feeling like there's a response. What else can he do?
Well, there's maybe a couple things. First of all, reaching out and trying to find investors is the right thing to do. And you're correct. Sometimes the angel investors want a very, very large share of the business for a very small amount. One of the other things you could do is, as your sales pick up, is look at alternative financing by financing your receivables through a non-traditional bank, a non-traditional financial institution. It's a little more expensive than going through a bank, but it's a good way to get started. You have inventory, you have receivables, they both have value, and they both will have value to a non-traditional institution. But stay close to your bank, because your bank is where you ultimately end up, and you need your bank for your transactions.
Yes.
So stay close to your bank, show your bank what you're doing, and at the right time the bank will be there to give you the financing you need. The other thing is, don't milk the business for cash, and keep the cash in the business. Obviously, you have to draw out some cash to live off of. You're taking a gigantic sacrifice with your personal wealth, but that's how businesses get started. And but just stay true to your business plan, stay with it, and you'll be successful. You will be. You have a great product here.
Thank you.
That's all for this week's Hampton Roads Business Weekly. You can find the show on Facebook and Twitter at HR Business Weekly or at hrbusinessweekly.com.
For Hampton Roads Business Weekly, I'm Zach Miller.
And I'm Cheryl Tan. We'll see you next week.
Hampton Roads Business Weekly, sponsored by Regent University and produced by ABC 13.